Hi, I wanted to make this video because I've been thinking, and this time I've been thinking about handwriting. And the reason I've been thinking about handwriting is because I recently had to fill out a form with a pen and paper, and I needed to write my name, address, postcode, car registration, and then signature. And I realised that I hadn't handwritten anything for a while, and I found it a little bit difficult to remember what to do. And I found it especially hard to write my signature, and it didn't look quite right at all when I'd done it. And thankfully it didn't really matter because they weren't comparing my signature to anything, but it got me thinking about handwriting and whether it's gradually disappearing, because in this digital age it isn't needed anymore. So it was strange to think about because handwriting was such an important thing when I was at school. We had to practice it over and over, and we had to learn how to use an ink pen, one of those calligraphy type pens that had an ink cartridge that snapped into place and could be replaced when it ran out. It took quite a lot of practice, but we had to keep going until we got the hang of it. And I'm left-handed, so I used to make quite a mess with an ink pen because my hand always smudges across the text that I've already written. But I still liked writing with an ink pen, and it made handwriting a bit more of an art rather than just a way of writing something down. And I think that we learnt that skill so that we could write a formal letter if we needed to. And that seems a bit silly and outdated now. Things have changed so quickly, and almost nobody writes formal letters now, as far as I'm aware. And I can't remember the last time I saw a pen with an ink cartridge. So I don't imagine many of those get sold anymore. And maybe even regular pens too. I actually tried to borrow a pen from someone at work a few weeks ago, and nobody had one. Literally nobody. And I think that's quite a clear sign of the way things have changed. Because really sending handwritten letters just doesn't make sense now. It takes equipment that people don't have and using a postal system that isn't reliable. And so really there's no choice but to manage all your communications online. And it is much more efficient, so handwriting is almost never needed. And it made me wonder whether handwriting is still being taught in schools. And if it is, how much longer that might go on for. I mean, my children were certainly taught that handwriting was important, and they're still expected to write handwritten notes and complete their exams by hand. But I wonder how much longer that will go on for. Because really, for children, going to school is about preparing them for their future. And if they hardly ever need to write anything as an adult, then there doesn't seem much point spending a long time perfecting their handwriting during their childhood. I mean, I think there is an argument that people often remember things more if they write them down, but that probably doesn't apply to everyone. And it probably doesn't outweigh how much time might be saved by not having to handwrite things. And I also think of handwriting as being another way to express yourself, particularly as a child. So maybe that side of things would be a bit of a shame to lose if children stopped handwriting. I mean, I can remember trying to change my handwriting style to something that felt like it matched me a bit better. I was kind of fed up of looking at the sharp and pointy letters, so I changed it to something more round and swirly. And I can remember being told off by my teacher for ruining my beautiful handwriting. But I thought it looked much better. And I enjoyed using it as a way to express myself. And I can remember looking at someone else's handwriting and they had used a heart to dot their I's instead of just a dot. And I really liked that, but I couldn't draw hearts very well, so I changed mine to an open circle instead of a dot. And I'm sure my teachers would have preferred that I put my effort into the subject rather than the writing, but I was enjoying myself. And I actually used to like the fact that you could tell who'd written something because of their unique handwriting style. And when letters or cards would arrive in the post, I would know who they were from just from recognising the handwriting on the envelope. And if you don't get to see someone's handwriting, it's an aspect of them that you don't know. And I think there's something a bit sad about that. I've kept a lot of the letters that people wrote to me when I first moved away from home. And it's definitely quite special to see their handwriting as well as the words that they wrote. And it is nice that people can keep in touch more easily now, but it's also a bit of a shame that future generations might never have that feeling of receiving a handwritten letter in the post, or even a handwritten postcard from someone when they're on holiday. There's something quite special about a letter. Well, I think there is anyway. I mean, I don't actually miss writing postcards when I'm on holiday, but I do miss receiving them. I prefer getting messages and photos on WhatsApp, if I'm honest, but they're not keepsakes in the same way that a postcard could be. And I've got a collection of postcards from years ago, and it's nice to look through them sometimes and bring back the memories, and maybe laugh about how much or how little people had managed to write on that limited amount of space. I expect there's probably people now that don't even know what a postcard is. But is any of that reason enough to try keeping handwriting alive if modern life has no real need for it? I mean, typing is quicker than handwriting, depending on how good you are. It's less messy for left-handers like me, and I guess it's easier to learn. It's easier to correct if you make a mistake, and it is a very convenient way to communicate instantly with other people, no matter where you are in the world. So it certainly does have plenty of benefits. And of course, the technology that can type for you as you speak or read text to you that's been written, it's pretty good now. So that moves us even further away from needing to write anything. I mean, I can't imagine not being able to write, but I do feel a bit worried that we might be heading in that direction. And, we could maybe end up losing other skills along the way. This handwriting, I think, helps with hand-to-eye coordination and fine motor skills. So it does have an impact on our ability to do other more fiddly things with our fingers, like painting or sewing or building Lego or making jigsaws. So maybe if we don't keep up the skill of handwriting, we might find that we can't do those other things either, or at least not as easily. Maybe playing video games helps with those things too, so maybe all hope is not lost, because that certainly doesn't seem to be something that's going away. I think at the moment there are still enough people around that feel strongly about the importance of learning to write, but I do wonder if that will still be true in the future. People are always looking for ways to save time, and handwriting certainly isn't the quickest way to capture information. But I think I want to be one of those people who feels strongly about the importance of learning to write and keeping hold of that skill throughout your life. So by making this video, I think I've reminded myself that handwriting is something that I don't want to lose. So it's up to me to put a bit more effort into keeping that skill going in my life. And I hope that schools won't ever stop teaching handwriting, but I can also understand that they probably won't place as much importance on it as in the past. And I can see why young people might not see the value to themselves of handwriting when it takes longer than typing, is messier, and isn't as easy to correct when you make a mistake. And talking about how the need for handwriting is evolving is actually reminding me of the video I made about cash and whether cash is going to survive in the digital age. Handwriting seems like a similar situation where we're reaching a point that we can manage without it. So we're starting to be presented with the question of whether we're happy for it to disappear or if we want to take some steps of our own to keep it alive. And since I made the video about cash, I've been making a point of using cash a bit more often. I mean, not all the time, but more often than I did before I made the video. And I feel like I'm going to do the same with handwriting. I think handwriting a card or a letter is much more personal than sending an email or other form of online message. So hopefully that's reason enough to keep it going. I did used to keep a handwritten diary, and I think I might start doing that again, even if it's just a few lines each day. It will remind me to make sure that I'm handwriting at least a few words each day, and that will make sure that I don't accidentally start losing the skill of handwriting because I've let weeks or months slip by without having to handwrite anything. Maybe I'll also start noting down my video ideas in a notebook rather than on my phone in the future. And I might even write someone a letter. So those are my thoughts and experiences with handwriting, but what do you think? Do you still handwrite anything, or is everything digital now? Does it bother you, or are you happy that you don't need to write anything? I would love to know what you think if you would like to leave a comment. So I hope you've taken something useful from this video, but I think that's all for this time. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!